Now, we'll be talking in the next couple of minutes on simple steps to achieving big goals. Simple steps to achieving big goals. And you will indulge me in the course of the session ahead of us. I will be citing some personal stories and examples. Now, let's have this at the back of our mind, the kind of person who is addressing us today. Well, I would have loved to ask how many universities that we have represented here. I know we have University of Dundee, I know we have Abate University. I don't know if we have other persons from any other university. I've been this type, I've been wired this way that if I cannot experiment it, if I cannot practice it, if I cannot see it being demonstrated, it's either it doesn't make sense to me or I get quickly disinterested in it. So, and if I can't showcase it, if I have not experienced it, it's just like something like this. One of my quotes is, if my father was not married, he couldn't have taught me about marriage, right? Because how can you teach somebody about something you are not doing, or you have not lived, or you've not experienced or tasted or practicing, right? So quickly we go to what I call the icebreaker, which is this, and I want communication and chat and responses from everyone in the room. So, and the question is this. So from what you have on the screen, which of the following category has a higher chance of achieving their goal? So the first category, those who have the goal and write it down. The second category, those who have the goal but do not write it down. And the third category is those who do not have a goal and do not have anything written down. I have put them in 1, 2, 3, and then I also explain the other part. Please, can I have your responses? If you just drop them in the chat, let me just have a look at it. So, one, those who have the goal and they write it down. 2, in your own opinion, right? And then 2, those who have the goal and then do not write anything. And then those who do not have any goal and do not write anything. Let me see what your thoughts are, and then we could pick it up from there. Okay, waiting for your responses. Okay, good. I'm seeing some chat here. Let me have a quick look at what I have here. Okay. Oh, University of Edinburgh. Nice. Thank you for joining us. Okay, one. Oh, excellent. All right, 2. Okay, interesting. Good. Now, okay, let me take this out. Did you know? I'm trying to move to the next slide now. It's going on to the screen. All right, sorry, please. Okay. Now, research shows that was conducted in University of California that 42% of those who have and write their goals, by doing that alone, gives them a 42% chance of achieving the goal. Those who have the goal but do not write anything down, by that alone, gives them a 17% chance of achieving that goal. And those who do not have any goal, nothing at all, they do not have any chance at all, according to the research that was done in the University of California. Now, what exactly does setting a goal does for you? So it gives you a sense of direction. In subsequent slides, I will give you, or I will explain to you how that helps us or directs us mentally. So it gives you a sense of direction at an unconscious level, and that is why even just having the goal and not writing it, there is still a tendency and a possibility of achieving it. Before I move on, I think the guys here will be able to relate more. When we're younger, well, in the UK that is not common, but back in Nigeria, when we're younger, we used to play football, right? And we brought it to a baseline where we want to play the football as little as 2 stones. All right, we put here, and there's a space, in between. Or we have our slippers. I don't think anybody here has ever seen that or experienced that. So, but in Nigeria, we did that a lot. We want to play. Oh, really? Interesting. Okay, good. So, we're on our shorts, we're just walking, and then we just found a small space, just want to play something. We don't need to mount anything. Just get out our slippers, and then we'll put the 2 slippers, one on this end and the other end, and there's a space in between. Just by that alone, no matter how big the space is, that gives everybody a center focus where to direct the football to. As inconsequential, as insignificant, as negligible that slippers is, just having it there, it turns everybody's attention to it. That's what goal setting does for you. It motivates you, it gives you clarity, it gives you focus and a pathway to achieving your desired objective. Now, goal setting activates the brain's reward system, all right, and it increases the dopamine, enhances focus, motivation and self-regulation. It strengthens the neurological pathways aligning actions with objective, such that when you are doing something, even at an unconscious level, at an unknown level, you are doing something, but somehow, without even knowing, it is directing you towards a particular goal. I was sharing something on Facebook recently, and I said one of my mentors traveled somewhere in Asia, and then he was walking down the street and got to this tattoo shop, and then he was trying to read the different writings they put on people's body, and there was one writing he saw, "Born to lose," and he was curious to know why would somebody write a tattoo "Born to lose" on his or her body. So he went in and met the tattoo guy. Why would somebody write this kind of a phrase on his body? And the guy, with the little English he could speak, he said, "Tattoo in the mind before tattoo on the body." So by writing, or by having those goals by itself, or writing it down, you've kind of put your mind in a particular format that unconsciously, and I'll share personal experiences, unconsciously you've, like a clock or like an alarm, you set your map towards something that when you're even doing certain things, it is kind of driving your actions towards that objective, something that you want to achieve. Now, great results with simple steps, and I'll be taking us through 4 steps. But before I delve deep into these steps, I would like to share this with you all. So, growing up, I had a very bad educational background, very bad, and one of which was in primary school. I repeated 2 times. I sometimes say this when I give motivational talk. I'm not a motivational speaker, but when I am privileged to get to do that, so that's part of the things I share about my story. I repeated 2 times in primary school. Now, you know what that means? That simply means that when you haven't moved to the next class after I repeated twice, it means that almost, or if not every single person in that class were 2 years younger than I was. But you know the very painful part? I was about the last 5. If I tried, maybe the last 7 in the class. And I'm older than all these people by age. I'm older than them by class. But they're still smarter than me. So it was such a very bad start in primary school and in junior secondary school. I didn't do well in school. And that thing kind of haunted me even till I came out of secondary school. And one of my goals in life was, if there was anything called the zenith in career, in terms of academics, I will get there. So at 17, when I lost my dad, I was exposed to reading books. motivational books, stories. I read about Brian Tracy. I read, Brian Tracy was such a very dumb kid. He wasn't smart. He didn't know anything. He even dropped out of school. He was a marketer. He didn't sell. I think at a point he even attempted suicide or so. Brian Tracy didn't do well. And that person was Richard Branson. In fact, at the point, Richard Branson was my idol. I so idolized him because his story was like a mirror of mine. Richard Branson, in fact, I was smarter at the age I was reading, or the particular age that Richard Branson was, when I was reading about him. I was kind of smarter than him. I was kind of smart because I read some things that he did and I told myself, no, I think I have more sense than this. He was so dull, he was so retarded, and he was dyslexia. So I saw that I could do better than this guy. So at some point, I felt, okay, if this guy could be this, if I follow his steps, I could achieve what he achieved, right? And then I read about a lot of people. So I told myself I wanted to be at the very best. If there's anything that is the highest in academics, I wanted to hit it. The number 2 goal as a teenager I wanted to have lots of money. I didn't want to have money problem because I came from a very poor background. We were so poor, we did not need somebody to tell us we were poor, right? Because we exhibited it. We showed it. People, you could see these guys are starving, they are hungry, they are poor. So I wanted to have enough money to take care of myself, to take care of my future family, to do whatever it is I wanted to do. So, this was when I was 17. And then I began to write goals. That was when I started buying diary. Every new year, I'll buy a diary. I will write some very crazy goals. I'll write some very outrageous goals. I read some things that I was intoxicated about the future. I wanted to be anything ever possible by a human being. So I began to try. And then when I was about 22, 23, I then decided to focus on making money. I said, okay, the first thing I want to make money. And that was all I wanted. I want to make money. And gradually, as God helped me, of course, we Africans will spiritualize things because actually everything emanates from God. There is spiritual backing and basis to everything. Did you know that at 29, was it 29 now, 28, I wrote my first 1 million naira check to somebody, right? I needed somebody to help me do some work, right? So a company paid me to do the job, and then I paid somebody to do the job, and I wrote my first 1 million naira check. And I will never forget that check. I didn't know how to write 1 million. So I made a mistake in that. I can't even remember how many zeros I wrote. Maybe it was even 9. And I was trying to write 1 million. And I kept that check. I still remember the name of the bank, Fidelity Bank. I no longer bank with that bank, but I remember that incident very clearly. And before I was 35, when I was doing stuff with some people about what has gone through me, my businesses and all of that, it was shocking to me that, this is just in the course of this session, okay? So this is not for any other reason. I was pleasantly shocked to realize that I had done businesses and had owned certain things. Putting all together was about $150,000, and I was less than 35. And at that point, I told myself, okay, next is going to be career and academics. I want to be the very best I can be in my career, in my academics. This story I'm sharing with you, I'm going to cite them as example as we move on in this session. And then I began to run after things. I went in for the John Maxwell course. At the time, the John Maxwell course was costing about 6 million naira. If that's the best anybody can get into, I pushed my head into it. Put in the money, started the course. NSA, National Speakers Association, you need to have spoken in certain countries, you need to have earned certain amount, you need to have spoken in certain platforms. There are levels to this thing for you to be, and to be a member of NSA, that means you are in the same league with Brian Tracy, you are in the same league with Brian Tracy, I'm forgetting this guy's name now. These global speakers, I did all I could. I became a member of NSA, and as at the time, there were less than 14 I think I was the 11th person to have been nominated as a member of NSA in the whole of Nigeria. If there was anything ever possible, I wanted to chase it. And in 2020, I'll go on, mention figures and age, right? In 2020, I remember very clearly, I told myself that at 40, I wanted to be I wanted to have either the prefix of a doctor at 40, or I wanted to relocate my family out of Nigeria, or I wanted to be worth $1 million. I wrote this in 2020. I was 35 at the time. And I began to put all of these things together. I wanted either this or this or this, either of them. By the end of that year, how it happened, I don't know. But I know by October that year, just as we're coming out of COVID, I got an admission for a doctorate program. And then the story goes on. Well, today it appears that, I'm 40 this year. I'm not 40 yet, but this year makes it 40. And I've achieved already 2. I said either this or this or this. I have achieved 2 already with ease. I can't remember achieving any of them with any struggle, with ease. Now I said, well, now somebody's thinking, how about the $1 million goal? Well, it so happened that in 2023, I read a book, I can't remember now, and then I told myself, I had like a paradigm shift. So you are worth $1 million. And guess what, guys? I was actually working towards it. Ask me how. Well, that's a story for another day. But I read a book, I can't remember now, but I can only remember what paradigm shift that book gave me. Now, it made me feel, so when you look at the value of the money you're chasing, and you look at the value of the impact you want to chase, which is better, then I decided to switch it with, at 40, I want to have directly impacted, influenced, and helped 40 people. That these people are kind of change makers themselves, such that I think there's a passage in Isaiah chapter, I can't remember the passage now, that talks about you shall be the builder of generation, right? You shall be a foundation or something for many generations. Now, by God's grace, God has helped me to set up men and women in places and in positions by God's grace, that those they have also impacted and influenced. It's like a triple generation. So if you want to look at it in genealogy, I'm like a grandfather in terms of influence and impact. There are people I see today who make reference to, it was the person you helped, it was the person you influenced and mentored that has made me who I am today. And by God's grace, I've been able to achieve that by and large. So what I'm saying in essence is this. So by setting goals, these things have a way far reaching beyond just a day's goal, a year's goal, but it goes far into your life. How did I come to have achieved, I'll say this little, right? Today, it didn't just start by just being outrageous, audacious, audacious rather, but it starts little by little, and I'll get into that in a short while. Now, your goal has to be SMART. We all know about this. So, but I decided to call it SMART. All right. So the first one, it has to be specific. What exactly do you want to achieve? I gave an example. I wanted money, and I wanted academics. All right. And then even for the money, I gave a specific value and figure to it. All right, it has to be measurable. All right, so at the point I told myself, doctorate degree, this is what I want to work towards. It was measurable, it was fixed at something. It has to be achievable. All right, so I was not in primary school, in secondary school, and I'm saying at 17 I wanted to be married, have a family, and relocate outside Nigeria. That's not achievable. It's not realistic. So it has to be achievable, something that you can achieve, something within reach, particularly if you are just starting. Because see, these things, goal setting, I'll tell you by and large, is a skill, just like emotional intelligence. It's a learnable skill. You can learn it. You know, regardless how retarded, how haphazard and scattered it appears your life or your schedule has been, it's a skill you can learn. It has to be relevant. It has to be relevant. So let me think of something. Okay, let me just say this. So just indulge me. For lots of examples, I'll just give this example. So my wife has always wanted me to be a pastor. She has always had the dream, my husband will be a pastor. But for whatever reason, I don't think I want to be a pastor. I don't think I'm interested in that title. But let's just say, I'm trying to explain it has to be relevant. Now, I'm not trying to set a goal at 50. I want to establish a church. And I want my church to be in 5 countries of the world. I do not think that is relevant to me. I don't think that is relevant to my long-term goal. I don't think that is what I'm actually building myself for or towards. I do not think so. So it has to be something relevant and aligns to your long-term aspiration. And then it has to be time-bound. Again, like I gave the example, at 40, I want to be this. And by God's grace, I was just about 37, 38 when I'd gone far beyond even the goal I'd set at 40. And then, of course, you need to have a checklist. And that's where a diary comes in, where you continue to have a checklist. Now, step 2, create a plan. Break it down. And then I give the acronym DAP, which is one, divide your goal into smaller, actionable steps. See, babies do not just stand up and become the best Olympic runner in the world. They start by crawling. They stand and take a step and fall. So there might be times when you fail, you don't meet up with your goal. That's okay, that's fine. I'll give examples as well as we move on. So, but you need to divide them into smaller bite-sized chunks. 2, assign deadlines to each step. So I do not have the chance. I would have loved to bring my diaries of 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021, and 2020 and just flick through some pages randomly just to give you an idea of this. So let me just digress a bit again. So this year happens to be the first year that I decided to take my children on. Well, they are approaching puberty. They are, getting to become teenagers. So, and I want to start taking them on certain steps that even goes beyond their ages. Now, prior to now, they have a timetable. Every day they have a timetable, and that's gradually building them to a lifestyle of goal setting and having a workable plan. So this has been since, I can't remember what year now, but this has been for some few years now. There's a timetable they have in their room. You're back from school at 3, from 3 to 4, this is what you're doing. From 4 to 5, this is what you're doing. From 5 to 7, this is what you're doing. From 7, you keep following your timetable. And there are times there's a reward for following the timetable. There are times there's a punishment for going against the timetable. I have trained them so much to this point where this year I've now decided to upscale it, that I got them a diary and I told them, write your goal for the year. Now, so this year too, there's something we started. So we call it Daddy's Day. Of course, my wife is always with them. Their mom is always with them. But I really give that intentional time. So I said this year I want to get a bit intentional. So we have 2 days in a week. We call it Daddy's Day. All right. So, but to now explain to them clearly on the goal setting. All right. So I opened I think Daddy's Day for last week. I brought out my diary for 2023 or 2022, and then we began to flip through. So I was saying some things to them to buttress it. I then went to my diary of 2022 or 2023. We began to read some things, and they were very shocked when they got to a point where I wrote, at so time I will do so thing that we're going to be in the UK. I wrote this 2020, and they were very shocked. And I gave them some other examples. And then I moved to 2024. I showed them some things in my diary. And of course, I started using 2025 diaries in December 2024, just prepping myself into the year. And then I started showing them, I showed them my phone, how I write. my to-do list every single day. Every single day I write my to-do list, even at work. Now, for those of you who know the kind of job I do, so you imagine when you're at work and your work, normally your normal work. Please, our timekeeper, you will indulge me, I might extend the time. Because this has to be as practical as possible. It's not just what we see in the slide, it's not just what we hear, but then we need to be able to relate it. All right. So so if you know my kind of job, so my job is such that there's an app you log in at work at 7 a.m. and then 7 to 8 there's something you have to do. 8 to 8:30 there's something you have to do. This goes all through to your break time. When you're back from break, it continues till the end of the day. I mean, the day is so packed full. If you have a break, maybe just 15 minutes in between, and that can happen maybe twice or thrice in a whole day. About 12 hours, you're working. Now, between the 7 to 8 a.m., 8 to 9, 9 to 9:30 of my work schedule, I have my personal to-do list also between 8 to 9, 9 to 9:30. I have it. Meetings I attend. You won't understand if you don't know the kind of job I do. Meetings I attend. Proposals I prepare. Emails I respond to. These are personal things that does not concern my company at all. That does not concern my company at all. And this year I was trying to do a recap of what I was doing last year. Maybe I need to drop some things and all the rest. And I realized that I was doing about 11 things. 11 things. About 7 of them were companies. 7 companies that if I do not get involved in certain activities, things will have to wait until I'm involved. Some, I'm like the operations person. Some, I'm like the marketing person. So if I don't market, we don't make money, nothing happens. Things like things that goes online and all that, I need to proofread, approve, edit. All this I put in my to-do list. When you don't have any break at work, and I'm still able to infuse this, before I can get to that height, you need to have started small by small, smaller, and then grow from there. So assign deadline to each task, plan for obstacles. All right, let me quickly jump to 3 now. Stay motivated. All right, so what is your why? What is your why? And see, it has to give you certain sleepless nights. For example, you're a student, you want to come out with this grade. Why? For me, my academic growing up wasn't good. I wanted to be able to stand up in the future, eyeball to eyeball, to my mates 2 years earlier, and be able to compete with them. I wanted to be able to compete with them at any level. And by the grace of God, with all humility and sense of responsibility, understanding word for word exactly what I'm saying, I cannot find anybody in my primary school, in my secondary school day, even though they were 2 years ahead of me. I cannot find anyone whom I cannot stand shoulder to shoulder with. I can't pick anybody. Now, friendship. Surround yourself with supportive people. So let me just crack a little joke here. So I have had this couple of friends, 4 of them, with myself with 5, and they are all older than I am. I'm actually the youngest, but they do not know, right? So except somebody will go and tell them later on, they do not know. And I sometimes crack this joke that in 2018, we said we wanted to run a race, first to reach 40. Okay, first to reach 40, and we did. On your mark, said before we said go, one of us has already reached 40, and we're like, what's wrong with you? Now we have not even blown the whistle, and you're 40. And before we knew, the next person was 40. Before we knew, the next person, even those I thought I was older than, they're already 40, and I'm not 40 yet. So it begins to make me get intimidated. But guess what? These are people who are older than me, and we're friends. by God's grace, we are doing things together. Of course, back then we had the goal, we all wanted to move our families out of Nigeria. This was far back in 2017. 2 of them are in Canada. 3 of us are in the UK. In fact, 2 are in Sweden. Friendship. Now, all my friends are older than I am. Now, it does not mean the older, the wiser. But somehow it happens like that. When you have friends who share common vision with you, common goal with you, they can motivate you, challenge you, and push you. Have fun. Celebrate your little victories and win. So back then in Nigeria, when I work, I think I still do that now, but I do that now in reflex. But back then in Nigeria, when I have my goals, I used to work before I left the country. A year or 2 before I left the country, I think this will also help you. I was the group human resources for a group of companies, of 7 companies. I was the group human resources of 7 companies, managing almost 300 staff. Now, and guess what? You may not believe me when I say this, but guess what? I usually consume 5 audiobooks in a week. I read 5 audiobooks in a week. That happens to be one of the things I was doing. Now, you cannot just achieve success or your goals by chance. So now one of the things I was then doing was I was working really hard. My job was enormous, managing so much staff. And I don't want to give you details about the company. But then it was a tough one. And I was relating between the chairman and the MDs of the companies. And it so happened that, of course, the pressure was a lot. Nothing must fail, but my career had to still keep going. But what I then did was this. Every week, I achieved my goals. Because on Monday, I'll have written, or on Sunday, I'll have written, I'm going to do this, I'll do this, I'll finish this, I'll read this, I'll do that. Any Friday, I happen to have finished. So any Friday, I happen to have finished my goal. I spent about an hour or 2. I spent an hour or two just watching. So I want, please, who is that? So I spent an hour or 2 just watching comedy, just laugh because that's one of the ways I ease myself up and just have fun. I just watch that. So try and have fun. And then step 4 is reflect and adjust. So review. So regularly review your progress. Adjust and adapt your plans. See, I will tell you this, and of course, be flexible. In my recent, research one-to-one with people that I know, I do not know, and I mean this when I say it. Maybe my wife might be able to bear witness. I do not know anyone that has failed in business more than I have. I don't know anyone who has failed in business more than I have. So you want to be flexible and adapt as situations adjust themselves, as they present themselves. Now, putting all of these together, we're going to have a little interaction and then a brief assignment. But before we get there, don't get overly pumped up and they want to just jump out and then begin to get things done. Avoid procrastination. So for those who have not been used to setting goals, and this is just a new lifestyle for you, just the next slide I will explain in bit on how you can get started. But then first, avoid procrastination. Once you started, setting unrealistic goals should be avoided. So even if the goal happens to be part of what you have always done, your routine, start with that. Avoid unrealistic goals. Not asking for help when needed. Avoid it. When you need help, ask. Then fear of failure. Hey, you set the goal, I couldn't achieve it. Come on, just go ahead. It's fine. Now, quickly to our interactive exercise. Are we all ready now? To the interactive session. Now, think about one personal, one academic, and one career goal. So right now, as we're here, listening to me, just think deep, just introspect. One personal goal, whatever it is. We've had written by since December. Personal goal, one academic goal, and one career goal. Now, write them down now using the SMART framework I shared with you earlier. All right? So just write those goals down following that framework. I want us to do that really quickly. Okay? Remember I shared with you, please, while you're writing that down. So remember I shared with you friendship, friends, your network, the people around you. Did they sack on you? Did they distract you, or did they add value to you? Are they people that you're accountable to? So that takes us to the to the last point, which is pair up with a partner to share and refine your goals. So I must confess at this point that I have had great mentors in my life, but overall, I don't think I've been a good mentee somehow. I've always just gone beyond what I'm told to do and all that. So that has really been, it's been an issue where it's difficult to tap me under a particular box. Friendship too. So I have a friend for something. So it's quite difficult to tie me down to someone or to something in terms of carrying myself to because I've always found that when I carry myself to someone or to something, somehow I outgrow it and I want to find something else. So what chases me? What is my drive? It used to be my background, but now I've gone far more my background. So what is chasing me? It appears I'm now on autopilot. I am irredeemable. So I've lost breath, I'm just going. So, but then if you're just starting, try to pick yourself to somebody and then see how you can go from there. And then the next one here is the assignment. So I hope you've done this interactive session, please, because this will be very, very useful for you. Try to replicate this even for other parts of your life. Now, assignment. Write down 3 goals. Same with the interactive session we just had. Personal, academic, and career, just 3. And then 2, break each goal into smaller steps. I'll show you a very, very quick sample in the next slide before we close. And then identify potential obstacles. What could be the potential or the corresponding solution to them. And then plan how you will celebrate milestones. So this number 4 have been very notorious. I have been very, I have not been achieving this for myself, not been doing this for myself. I remember in 2023, I said I had certain goals, and I said at the end of the first quarter, if I did this, I was going to do this. Second quarter, I'll do this. In fact, one of the goals for 2023 was that if I did this, was it 23 now 22, I was going to compensate myself with a trip to Dubai. Maybe it was yesterday I finally went for the trip because I'm very, very I don't compensate myself well enough as hard as I work. Now let's get really, really practical now. If you've not picked anything from the session since we started, please pay attention very closely and look up at the slide you have on the screen. Now to get started, okay? I want you to have a plan, like we said in the previous slide, a plan for the year. What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? You'll be graduating this year, or you'll be in your final year this year, or your second year, or your third year, whichever. And then your personal life. and your finances as well, and your career, your health, and all that. Now you break them into monthly plan. Now, your monthly plan sets as a map in your head. Now remember my personal story I shared with you. Let me quickly say this. 2021 was one of my worst year financially. 2021 was one of my worst year financially. Now this was what happened. 2021, I did a lot of online businesses. I won't mention the name, but online businesses. And that year alone, I lost close to $15,000 that year alone. And so I was so discouraged. As much as I planned for that year, everything, I was so discouraged and so pained. Into 2022, I did not write any goal. In fact, as a matter of fact, I did not wish anybody Happy New Year. Literally, as people were saying Happy New Year, in my mind I was like, what's happy about it? What is new about it? I remember where I was on New Year's Day. I took my car to the mechanic to have me work on, I think, the wheel or something. I remember where I was. I did not wish anybody Happy New Year. There was nothing happy about the year. But guess what? Where I am today in recent history was accumulated in that 2022. I did not write any goal. But how did that happen? It's an accumulation of the mindset I had over the years. So at an unconscious level, I was on autopilot. Even though I didn't have anything written down, but I had goals, even though I couldn't achieve them the year before. God helped me, and I did a whole lot of things. So break them into monthly plan. It sets you like the map. Then break the monthly plan into weekly plan. Now, if you do not have a diary for 2025, please go get one. And then break them into daily plan. Allocate each day, focus on something. All right, it's a focus that is still aiming at certain objective. Then break it down, break every day into hourly plan. It works. It has worked for me all my life, all my adult life. It has always worked. Go online and research about the great minds. This is what they have always done. They have a schedule. Now, see, so my hours and my activities are so planned in the day that, see, even me and anybody else, you want to go on social media, Instagram, YouTube or something, I want to spend 25 minutes. You will be shocked that 2 hours you are still there. Now, these apps have been designed to get you glued to them, that as you're watching one, another is popping up. As you're watching one, another one is popping up. But when you have this hourly plan, you'll be able to tell if you're exceeding, if you've succeeded, if you have failed. Even if you did not succeed, you'll be able to know. If there is no goalpost, you've just lived your day. You did not have any plan for today. Can you measure yourself if you succeeded or not? But when there are plans for that day and you did not even do any one, you can tell yourself, I didn't succeed. Why? Because there was a goal. You didn't score any goal, so you failed. But if there was no goalpost, there's no way you can measure yourself to have succeeded or to have failed. And then the next one is minute watch. I'm sure you must have heard this saying, penny wise, pound foolish. I've always heard it all my life. Believe me, it was when I came to the UK, I came to understand it. Penny wise, you have 1 pence. You're very good at saving every pence, every penny. You're very good at saving it. But now you have 50 pounds, you just blow it out. But you're very good at saving every penny. You're not wise. You're very good at saving pence, every penny, but then you're not good at saving the bigger money. If you are very good at saving every minute, you'll be wise at saving your life. To come to a close, the future depends on what you do today. And as I bring this to a close, I remember a quote that was, so every year I used to have a theme for the year, and I remember this theme for my when I was 19 years old. I still remember the diary very clearly. It was a dark blue and a light blue diary. And then the quote for the year, I can't remember the whole thing now, but I will just try and paraphrase as much as I can as I close my eyes to just try and remember it. It says, just do your best today. Others will help you on your way up. Just do your best today. Little things count if you just do your best today. It's a very long phrase, but very, very powerful phrase that led me through that year, and I had amazing results. Thank you so very much, everyone, and I'm sure you had some insights from the ideas I shared, and